Tired, I'm lost.
Alrighty. It's me again. You miss me? So, today we're going to be going over the absolute fun that is link layer authentication. Let me shut down this. So, as you can wonderfully see here, we have TIA standard 102 Alpha Alpha Charlie Echo revision A from April 2011. Little bit of a mouthful, but I'm sure it's fine. Oh, my phone decided to come back to life with the stream. That's wonderful. So yeah, let me know if I'm echoing, please, or if the audio is absolute garbage. It would be very, very much appreciated. Yeah. So, also, let me know if you guys like this format. I'm impartial to it. But, yeah. So, hello to everybody watching live, and hello to everyone watching later, because I know there will be people later. So, alrighty. Let's do a little bit of a... Alright, wow. I think first off I should probably explain why I'm going over LLA, or link layer authentication, or radio authentication. Depends on who you're asking. So my interest lately has been in adding or contributing back to Deviant Project. I mean, my whole network kind of runs off of it, so might as well. Yeah. All right. So lately, the last 2 commits I've done, only one of them has been merged as of this date. The other one's still waiting. I've done time date announce just as a kind of feel for, you know, what will this entail? And I can tell you it entails a bit, but it's okay. It's only a moderate amount of work. So, well, I guess I should explain my other one. I also did radio unit monitor, TSBK. Now that's not the enhanced version. That's only the standard version. The enhanced version I'm going to work on later. So I did a vote because I was kind of wondering what I should do next, and you guys decided I should do LLA because you guys like watching me go insane. Thanks for that, I guess. That's fun. Yeah. Let's go over LLA and how it works now that we've gotten, let's see, how long has this been? Oh, I don't even have a timer. Oh, about 5 minutes of me rambling, so I guess I'll have to put a timestamp or something. Let's scroll on down here. So while I'm scrolling, first thing first, what is link layer authentication? Basically, it is a process that can either be done during affiliation or really by command. What it allows the system to do, and it also allows the subscriber unit to do this, but I'm going to explain it first from the system perspective. It allows the system to go, yes, this is indeed the subscriber I want. You know, this is the one that matches up with this ID. It's completely authorized. This, you know, it basically provides a means to prevent imposters. You know, no radio ID cloning, which is rampant on Marks apparently. It's you know, ESing cloning, because the older method, and let's swap over to here. Scroll up to here. Let me find what it was. There we go. Authentication query and response. What these did, let's scroll on down. What these did is forced the subscriber to respond with, where is it? There we go. The ESN. That's it. So if you had a way to clone the ESN of a subscriber, which isn't impossible to do, it's somewhat hard, but it's not impossible like most things. There's always a way. So yeah. Now, as I just described, there are ways to get around that. I'm not going to explain what they are, but I do know of two. One of them's a bit more invasive and is literally just a chip swap. I mean, that's bit standard. Now, LLA basically prevents that. Let's scroll on down to, there we go. This is the challenge response authentication block diagram, or the process, basically, is what I like to call it. This is bog standard. Only one-sided authentication, no mutual, which I'll explain later. Let me see if I can zoom in any further. There we go. Okay. So, actually, I could probably, I don't know if OBS is going to like this, but here, let me cut to this one. I can then expand it that way. And I can cut back. Let's get rid of that bar. There we go. Okay. Now you guys can see a lot more. So we have kind of three bits here. We have the authentication facility, so, RFSS, which is kind of, for our purposes, for DVM, is the F&E. And then you have the subscriber unit, which is just your radio. You have these three bits. They all work together. One bit doesn't work, the whole deal doesn't work. Obviously, if you don't have a subscriber unit, there's no authentication. Don't have the RFSS, then the authentication facility can't talk to the subscriber unit, so there's no authentication. If you don't have the authenticate, or, well, we're just going to call this AF, then there's no authentication because you don't have an AF. Alright, so first things first, before I explain a few of these things, just because you're going to need to know. Let me get this 7,000 out of the way. There we go. We have the K key. This is your authentication key. You have RS, which I actually forgot what it is. That is your random seed. That's right. You have authentication method or something 1, but we're just going to call that AM1. KS is your session key. It is generated through using the K key and the random seed. And then KS can't be decoded back into the K key, because you can get the RS that's sent over the air in the clear, but KS cannot be turned into K. That is the basic rule, and they outline this several times, that it can never be able to. And then the AF then sends the RS and the KS, so it sends the session key and the random seed down to the RFSS, which is the F&E. This is basically the actual P25 network part. This is your core. Core, this is your sites, this is basically all that fun stuff, all the infrastructure. This is a separate little thing that just plugs into it. What the RFSS does is it generates random 1, which is a random challenge key, basically. It is a, what's the best way to do it? So random one, it uses the session key, and what is it? Okay, so it uses the basically it's another random seed. There you go. That's the word. That's what I'm looking for right there. So I don't know why that was so hard. So it uses the session key and it uses another random seed in the form of rand1 through authentication something 2 and comes up with xres1 or expected result. This does not leave the FNE. It stays here. Over the air, it sends to the subscriber unit, whether it be on affiliation or it be on a force authentication. It sends the random seed from the AF, and it sends random1, which is its random seed. The subscriber unit, you load in the K key, and then it takes the RS, the random seed, from over the air, puts it into a copy of AM1 that it has internally, and it makes the session key. Now, if it has the wrong K key, this session key will not match this session key, so authentication will fail. You can kind of see how this is all starting to come together. Now, we can't just spit the session key back and be done with it. No, we have to make it a little bit more complex than that. It takes random1, puts it into a copy of AM2, and uses the session key to come up with result1. It sends result1 back. The RFSS compares result1 from the subscriber unit and its result that it came up with beforehand, or xres1, and if they match, it sends the response back. This response can either be yes or no. That's it. So if res1 and xres1 don't match, it says no, denied, get off my network. If res1 and xres1 match, it's the correct unit, you know for a fact, it's good to go, and it sends a yes back. Maybe we should probably scroll down a little bit more so you can see that. There we go. No, there we go. So yeah, that's your bog standard, as basic as it will get, authentication, or LLA/RA/whatever. So there you go. Authentication mechanism. There we go. That's the word. Okay. So, and this is another thing, but basically it doesn't have to come with a new KS every time. I'm gonna make mine come up with a new KS every time just for simplicity. Plus it's more secure, I guess, but just for simplicity. That way I don't have to store that anywhere secure, because, yeah. Now, this is the more complex version. Let me try and get that. Let's see. Let me see if I can get this whole thing in the frame. Let's see here. Stand by. There we go. Okay. So, this is the mutual authentication process. Basically, you still see the same blocks last time. You have the AF, the RFSS, and the subscriber unit, of course. You still have the K key, the RS, the KS. You have rand1, RS, res1, xres1, and then AM1, AM2, AM1, AM2, etc. But you have this new KS, KS with, an apostrophe. What is that? So you have the session key, and then you have another session key. Now, one thing I haven't figured out, and I'm sure someone can come up with this and explain to this, but I'll wait for that. But if somebody knows the answer to my question here, but these use the same two values. Like, because random seed only gets transmitted over the air one time. So KS apostrophe and KS are the same, right? I know they go to a separate authentication mechanism, but I'm guessing AM3 is different from AM1 in some form, because all this, as far as my reading of the doc while I was at work this morning, all this is AES 128 ECB. So yeah, if anyone knows the answer to that, because I'm probably gonna come across it while we're going over this, but yeah, there you go. That's my question. KS, and I assume they're not the same, but yeah. So just as last time, KS and KS apostrophe do not get transmitted over the air. But now, instead of only having AM1 and AM2, you have AM3 and AM4. Same deal over here in the subscriber unit. AM1, 2, 3, and 4. Process is the AF sends KS, KS apostrophe, and random seed down to the RFSS for over-the-air stuff. And then you have the RFSS that comes up with random 1, which is its, random seed for AM2. Takes the session key and random 1, spits it into AM2, comes up with XRES1. Same deal as last time. Random 1 and random seed are sent over the air to the subscriber unit. Subscriber uses the K key, random seed, AM1, comes up with, shoot, where'd it go? I lost it. Oh, there we go. Spits it into, KS. Spits KS into AM2 along with random 1, comes up with res1. That is your first result. Result 1 is then sent over the air back to the RFSS. Now, along with it, you see this random 2. The subscriber unit also, at the same time, uses KS, K, and RS, and AM3. I'm sorry if these are just a bunch of acronyms, but trust me, they make sense once you look at the doc for more than 2 seconds. Comes up with the KS apostrophe, which is the other session key. It then, down here, spits into AM4, KS apostrophe, and random 2. Now, up here, comes up with random 2, which is its own internal random seed for this side of things. Now, instead of the RFSS coming up with the expected result, the subscriber unit comes up with the expected result. So whenever it sends result 1, it also sends its own challenge, which is random 2, back to the RFSS. The RFSS now uses the KS apostrophe from the AF and random 2 from the subscriber unit, puts it into AM4, comes up with result 2, sends it back, along with its acknowledgement of whether it thinks the subscriber is legit. And then the subscriber unit compares result 2 from over here and XRES2 from over here. And now the subscriber unit's like, okay, you're legit, sends back result 2. Well, R2, response 2, sorry. Back to the RFSS, telling it, yes, I think you're legit. Everything's all kosher here. So, yeah, there you go. So, now we get down to state diagrams. If you think for more than 2 seconds, you can kind of come up with these. Man, I wish I had more fine control over. Nope, nope, okay. Well, it is what it is. But basically, idle. It's not doing anything. Wants to authenticate, that sort of stuff. That's basically it. Nothing really special there. Same deal here, but this explains a little bit more as to the result. What will it do? Odds are if the authentication is a failure, it changes site to try and find one that's not, illegitimate. So now we come back to basic rules. These have to be followed. Otherwise, it's not LLA. It's something else. So, number one, authentication has to be done in the control channel. That's easy enough and makes a lot of sense. I mean, why put it anywhere else? Authentication shall be initiated by the RFSS or a mutual authentication enabled SU demanding the RFSS send a challenge. Basically, all that says is there's only two things that can start authentication. The radio frequency subsystem, or RFSS, basically the system, wants it to authenticate, or the subscriber unit wants the FNE to authenticate itself. That's it. No consoles, none of that. Only those two things. Number three, the authentication response of result 1 is correct, then the subscriber unit shall be considered valid by the RFSS. I mean, that makes sense. Why would it be any other way? If it's correct, why would it be considered invalid? So that one makes sense. Number 4, if the authentication response of result 1 is incorrect, then the subscriber unit may be ignored by the RFSS. Yet again, that makes sense. I don't see why it would be any other way. Number 5, if there is no response from the subscriber unit, then the action taken by the RFSS may be nothing, or repeat the authentication command. This is a weak point, I feel, in the whole dealio. Basically, if you want to get around LLA, you just have to have a non-LLA enabled subscriber unit. That's what I'm getting out of this. So it's either the system words will either do nothing about it, or it'll just keep on telling you, hey, can you authenticate? And your radio is going to say no, or just not say anything at all. Number 6, if the subscriber unit does not receive a result indicating authentication patched by the RFSS, then the SU may retry the message sequence if the authentication was initiated by the RFSS due to an SU action. Basically, what that boils down to is if the SU gets something that says, well, if it gets something back from the RFSS that doesn't match its XRES, or expected result, it can either just say, hey, can you do that again, just to make sure I heard you correct, type deal. But only if the whole authentication process was started by the RFSS. Number 7, when the authentication message sequence is started, an authentication timer will be started in the RFSS and SU. If the authentication timer expires, message sequence is not complete, then the SU or RFSS with an expired authentication timer will revert to its state before the authentication sequence started. The RFSS and SU will use the same authentication timer. The default value will be 30 seconds. Honestly, I think that's pretty generous, but for DVM purposes, I might, if that's configurable in most terminals, which I'm going to start looking around and trying to look at different brands to see if that is configurable. If it is configurable, I'm going to see what values and what values match up. For DVM and using hotspots, it would probably be the best idea to double that at the minimum. So, yeah, I mean, odds are that probably is configurable. It sounds like it is. Like, yeah. Alright. Number 8. A subscriber unit command to authenticate shall not send a separate service request until after the authentication response is being sent by the SU to the RFSS. So basically, until authentication is done, the subscriber unit can't do anything, can't send another command. Basically, if it decides I want the FNE to authenticate itself, you are, no telephoning connect, no page, no calls, no data, no voice, nothing until mutual authentication is complete. So an adversary SU, let's talk about that. What that is something that has the incorrect K key, fails authentication, but is trying to play itself off as an actual, legit radio. Basically, it is an imposter radio with a cloned ID and a fake K key. So there you go. So if an adversary subscribe unit may fail authentication, words, care should be taken so that this does not interfere with the status of a valid SU and the ability of the valid SU to acquire service on the system. Basically, what they're saying is you're going to have a fake SU, and let's say for the sake of an example, you're going to have a fake SU, and you're going to have a legit SU, both the same ID, with different K keys. So the adversary SU is going to fail authentication. And how can you tell the two apart? Well, if we scroll over here to TIA 102 Alpha Alpha Bravo Charlie dash Delta, we have authentication response. Where is, it's going to be in ISP. Hang on, let me find the ISP for this. Nope, that was it. Okay. Where is it? One of these sends the ESN. Okay, well, I'll find it later, but one of these, I think it might be the OSP actually. But I know one of these, and not the older ones, but the newer ones as well, still send the ESN. So that's basically how you can, tell them apart. If not, then I'm just talking incorrect out here. So yeah, don't take my word for it. Open up the doc, check for yourself. I am not seeing it, so alright. Is what it is. So basically, there's ways you can tell the two apart, mainly by which one fails, which one passes. So basically what it's saying is don't let this fake SU impact the valid SU. There you go. Number 10. If the RFSS needs RS and KS to authenticate the SU and cannot attain RS and KS, then the RFSS may allow an authorized SU to access the system, or it may not allow an authorized SU to access the system, depending on the security policy of the system. In the case where security policy allows access to the system, when the RFSS receives RS and KS, the RFSS should authenticate the SU. In the case where the security policy does not allow access, SU will be denied with the reason the SU cannot be authentication at this time, yada 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 yada. So, what that long haul paragraph says is basically if the authentication facility, or the AF, for some reason goes unavailable, the RFSS can either be configured to do two things. It can either just allow it if the radio ID is good to go, or it can just say, no, you have to authenticate to touch my system. And then, if you finally, say if the AF for some reason decided to freeze for whatever reason, which odds are my code it probably will at some point. Whenever it does eventually get the values it needs, which are random seed and KS, or the session key, and this is only for, we're only talking in speaks of single-side authentication, not mutual. So only needs those two at a minimum. Then once it gets that, it should try immediately, if it allowed the radio on the system, to authenticate it, and then go from there. But if it doesn't allow it, then it just needs to send a blanket, the subscriber unit could not be authenticated this time, doesn't try again until the subscriber unit wants it to or demands it. And then 11, authentication can be disabled for all SUs or for a particular SU. Basically, you can either disable it for everything where authentication is off, where authentication is on, or you can say, no, this unit doesn't need it. Say if it doesn't have the flash option or the ability, or if it's a saber and it just literally can't, then yeah, there you go. All right. Ooh, I need a glass of water after reading all that. We'll just skip over that. Mutual authentication. I mean, it's basically the same, just with, if res1 from the RFSS is correct, then it's valid. If it's not, then there you go. That's all about as you expect. Obviously, the FNE has to be capable of mutual authentication if you're using it. When the SU is configured for mutual authentication, the SU has to invoke it or start it. That's all I'll say. We'll kind of scroll down. Okay. So this is for standalone. That's not something I'm going to be doing for version 1. Let's just keep on scrolling. Okay. So these are the standard ones. This is how the whole process is going to go down. You have the RFSS. You have the subscriber unit. First thing first, it's going to try and do the standard unit registration request. There you go. RFSS, before sending the response for that unit registration, is going to send authentication demand with the RS and random value 1. The subscriber unit will crunch away the numbers and come back to it with result 1 in the authentication response. RFSS will think about it for a second, go, yep, that looks correct, and send both back the unit registration request, response as to the unit ID is valid and whether the authentication is valid in the unit registration response. There you go. So, failed, obviously it's going to demand result 1. It's going to be wrong. It's just going to tell it registration refused. Exact same as if your unit ID was invalid. So there you go. Now we have mutual authentication. Subscriber unit says, hey, I want to register. RFSS say, no, authenticate first, here's 2 values, crunch out the numbers. It will then send an authentication response mutual, which is a different opcode, and basically tells the RFSS, okay, I'm now sending you my result and then my random value. Authenticate FNE response, that will send back its result, and then the subscriber unit will tell it, hey, okay, you're good, authentication FNE result passed. And then unit registration response, basically saying, yes, you've both authenticated and your unit ID is valid. There you go. Now, what if it fails? Oh my. So this is coming from the perspective of the subscriber unit failing. You have the request, demand, response mutual, but result 1 is incorrect. F&E doesn't even try to do result 2 because it's incorrect. So it sends registration refused. I mean, no dir. Alright, so this is from the RFSS is invalid. I really can't think up of any sort of perspective where the RFSS would ever be invalid. But someone probably can. You have request, demand, response mutual, and somehow the invalid RFSS has the correct. I really can't put the two and two together. Like, it somehow has the correct K key in order to come, get result 1 matching up with XRES1, but not the correct K key to come up with the KS apostrophe. Though, okay, I'm putting this together now. It could just be programmed if it's like a site simulator to just say yes to everything. Okay, I'm starting to see the logic here. Okay, took me a second. So now it sends its response to random 2. Response 2 is incorrect. So response 2 from authentication F&E result is failed. So it sends back registration refused. Though I think the RFSS sending registration refused is a weak point, but hey, what do I know? I mean, yeah. So now we're coming from the perspective of it's registered and everything, and the subscriber unit is demanding authentication. You have registration request, registration response, and then sometime later, right here, you have SU demand, authentication response mutual, authentication F&E response, authentication F&E result, and acknowledge response F&E. There you go. So basically, this next section is key management, excuse me, and provisioning. Big old, big old block paragraph about, we use KS to prevent K from getting out. Because that would be stupid to just send your key over the air every time. Or better yet, have it where it's not obfuscated in one layer. So extensive repeater use of the same KS could help an adversary. I mean, I'm swapping it every transmission, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. Same logic applies to KS apostrophe, yada yada yada. Then you have stuff about, OTAR, and you should probably use it, which, yeah, I mean, you should probably use it. And now we have AM1. Now, that's all I'm going to show you about as far as these goes. I mean, it's not that there's anything necessarily bad, because you can find this document online very easily. But yeah, just gonna scroll on down. Let me just tell you what I'm seeing. AES 128 ECB. So there you go. I mean, that's basically all it is. And yeah. So now we have just some example data. If any of you guys are curious, we have the K key, the random seed got turned into the session key. The session key now comes down here, uses a different random seed. Well, yeah, because that's rand 1. And then you have result 1 right there. Same deal here. Subscriber K key, which is the same as up here, has different random seed. Then yeah, the session key. Well, no, has the same random seed, sorry. But it has a different KS because how it kind of puts stuff together is different in AM3. Then same deal here. And now we're on pages intentionally left blank. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that. If you didn't, okay. And if you want me to continue doing this format, just let me know. I mean, I've got docs, so we can go over them. Hopefully I can explain them in a way that's easier to understand than, you know, let's see here. You know, the K and the RS go into the AM1, go into the KS, which then go into the RFSS, which then take the KS and the random 1, put them into AM2, and then come out with XRES1, send the RS and random 1 over to the SU, which take the K and the RS into AM1, take the KS and random 1, put them into AM2, then come up with RS, send them over the air, and then compare RS with XRES1, and then send back R1. So I'm hoping I explained it better than that, because that was just word vomit. So yeah, hope you guys have fun. Enjoy your day.